the Aryan Brotherhood. A name that strikes fear, respect, and curiosity. Known for its brutal power and tight grip within the criminal underworld, this gang's influence stretches far beyond prison walls. But what makes its members so dangerous? What drives these individuals to build one of the most feared criminal empires in history? In part 2 of our series, we dig deeper into the lives of the most ruthless and influential members of the original Aryan Brotherhood. These men didn't just join a gang, they helped shape it, carving their names into the dark chapters of criminal history. From masterminds who pulled the strings from behind bars to leaders who commanded respect with an iron fist, each played a key role in making the Brotherhood what it is today. Number 8. Dennis Lawley. Dennis Lawley, a figure associated with the Aryan Brotherhood, became a central figure in a case marked by intrigue and contention. The Aryan Brotherhood, a known and formidable group operating primarily within the penal system, often maintains influence and control through calculated actions and alliances. Lawley was linked to this network and came under scrutiny due to his involvement in events that underscored his reputed alignment with dangerous behaviors. In 1989, an incident brought Lawley into the spotlight. Kenneth Stewart, recently released from incarceration, was discovered lifeless on a roadside in California's Central Valley. Stewart was known to frequent areas involved in unlawful trade, including Butler's Camp, where Lawley resided. Witness accounts alleged that Stewart had targeted Lawley's cabin, instigating an event that reportedly set Lawley on a path of retaliation. Evidence later presented in court suggested Lawley sought to orchestrate actions against Stewart, purportedly involving monetary exchanges and directives that implicated others in his plans. The trial that followed in 1990 revealed complex dynamics. Lawley represented himself, drawing attention to his mental health history, including diagnoses of paranoid schizophrenia. Despite his condition, he was deemed competent to stand trial. His courtroom demeanor and self-representation added layers of intrigue, with statements suggesting an ambition to create an infamous legacy, referencing biblical symbolism. The prosecution's case relied on testimonies from individuals with questionable credibility, including those granted immunity for their cooperation. Forensic evidence played a critical role, with a firearm recovered from Lawley's cabin being linked to the incident. Lawley countered with claims implicating the Aryan Brotherhood, asserting he was framed due to internal conflicts. However, legal rulings restricted testimony about the Brotherhood's alleged involvement, limiting the defense's narrative. Lawley's conviction for a severe offense led to a death sentence, affirmed after appeals. Subsequent years saw declarations from co-defendants, notably Brian Seaborn, who alleged that the Aryan Brotherhood orchestrated the event, exonerating Lawley. These claims were brought forward in petitions, but failed to overturn the conviction due to insufficient corroboration and procedural limitations. Today, Dennis Lawley remains on death row, with his appeals and petitions marking a contentious legal journey as he continues to serve his sentence. Number 7. Jason Corbett. Jason Corbett, a known figure within the Aryan Brotherhood, exemplifies the dangerous reputation of this infamous prison gang. Corbett, now 52, was deeply entrenched in the organization, which operated as a network of influence and control both within and beyond the confines of California's correctional facilities. His rise within the Aryan Brotherhood was marked by a series of events that demonstrated his commitment to the gang's strict codes and his willingness to enforce its rules without hesitation. Between 2011 and 2016, Corbett played a pivotal role in the group's orchestrated criminal operations, which included activities such as overseeing the distribution of illicit substances and maintaining discipline among associates. Members communicated covertly, using contraband devices, ensuring their directives reached the outside world while evading detection. Corbett's influence extended to directing acts of enforcement, reinforcing the gang's dominance and punishing perceived infractions. A defining incident occurred in July 2018 at High Desert State Prison. Corbett carried out an act of fatal aggression against an inmate accused of falsely claiming affiliation with the group and accumulating unpaid debts related to contraband. This deliberate act, planned with another member, demonstrated his resolve to uphold the Aryan Brotherhood's rigid standards. The incident, according to official accounts, was a calculated measure to solidify his position and deter any challenges to the gang's authority. Corbett's criminal history reflects a pattern of calculated decisions and unwavering loyalty to the gang. Law enforcement investigations revealed his involvement in managing the group's distribution network for prohibited substances, an operation that extended far beyond prison walls. The breadth of these activities showcased the gang's extensive reach and Corbett's integral role in sustaining its operations. His eventual capture and prosecution marked a significant victory for authorities targeting organized crime within prison systems. Corbett was sentenced to life imprisonment. The charges included conspiracy linked to violent enforcement activities and managing the gang's illicit enterprises. These proceedings highlighted the extensive efforts by multiple law enforcement agencies to dismantle the Aryan Brotherhood's influence. Today, Corbett remains incarcerated, serving a life sentence that reflects the severity of his actions. Number 6. Steven Tyler Ralston. Steven Tyler Ralston, a known affiliate of the Aryan Brotherhood, has garnered a reputation for his actions that paint a portrait of a high-risk individual. Confirmed as a member of the gang, Ralston's name became synonymous with activities that placed him on law enforcement's radar across multiple counties. His association with the Aryan Brotherhood underscores a lifestyle deeply entwined with crime, defiance of authority, and a history of dangerous behavior. Ralston's encounters with law enforcement reveal a pattern of resistance and endangerment. Most notably, during an attempted arrest in Laverne, Tennessee, he operated a vehicle in a manner that endangered several deputies. Reports indicate he was driving a Chevrolet Suburban when authorities approached. Ralston evaded arrest, leading officers on a pursuit along Interstate 24 that highlighted his disregard for safety. His actions during this incident mirrored earlier encounters where he had used vehicles recklessly, intensifying the risks for those involved. His criminal history spans multiple jurisdictions, with charges reflecting a breadth of offenses. Among them are felony evasion, reckless endangerment with a weapon, and theft involving vehicles. In Williamson County, his conduct with a motor vehicle escalated to allegations of assault, demonstrating his willingness to use means that could cause significant harm. Additional reports from Maury County linked him to the illicit acquisition of a motorcycle, emphasizing his penchant for high-value targets and audacious attempts to escape accountability. As a member of this organization, his actions were not isolated but often contextualized within the network of the gang's activities. The group's reputation for orchestrating crimes and fostering loyalty through intimidation was reflected in Ralston's approach to both his illegal undertakings and interactions with authorities. His threats to law enforcement, vowing not to return to incarceration, showcased his resistance to societal and legal constraints. Despite multiple attempts to apprehend him, his actions highlighted the challenges authorities faced in addressing his continuous defiance. While details about his current status remain limited, his history firmly situates him as a figure of interest for both his connections to the Aryan Brotherhood and the tangible risks his actions posed. Number 5. Brandt Daniel. Brandt, 2 scoops. Daniel, a notorious member of the Aryan Brotherhood, has become a significant figure within the criminal world. Over the years, he has been involved in numerous criminal activities that have cemented his reputation as a dangerous and ruthless individual. Daniel's criminal history stretches over decades, beginning in the 1990s when he was first incarcerated. Known for his violent tendencies, he quickly became a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. As part of his role within the gang, Daniel was involved in various illicit activities, including orchestrating and carrying out violent acts to assert his dominance both inside and outside of prison. His gang affiliation was not merely about membership, but about climbing the ranks, ensuring his influence extended through the prison system. In 2016, Daniel's criminal activities escalated when he was implicated in the demise of another inmate at Salinas Valley State Prison. The victim, Zachary Scott, was targeted for failing to execute a violent act ordered by Daniel and for mishandling illicit substances that were critical to the gang's operations. Daniel's involvement in Scott's demise was part of a larger pattern of using violence to maintain power, control, and respect within the gang. Daniel was later convicted for this incident, serving a sentence of 30 years to life in California's state prison system. But it was not only the violence within the prisons that kept Daniel in the headlines. His role in the larger racketeering activities of the Aryan Brotherhood became the focus of a significant federal investigation. In 2019, federal authorities charged Daniel and other high-ranking members of the gang with racketeering activities that spanned narcotic trafficking, extortion, and manslaughter, all carried out to benefit the Aryan Brotherhood. As a key figure in the racketeering case, Daniel was indicted for orchestrating and committing violent acts to further the gang's interests. He was charged with manslaughter charge against another inmate, again for failing to follow orders, and for his involvement in the gang's broader illicit operations. In December 2020, after a prolonged legal battle, Daniel agreed to a plea deal. He pled guilty to the charge of manslaughter in aid of racketeering and was sentenced to life in federal prison. The plea agreement, however, included a unique stipulation. Daniel sought to serve his sentence in federal custody rather than in California's state prisons, where he had long been incarcerated. He argued that the conditions in the state prisons were rife with corruption and threats, and he hoped that a transfer to a federal facility would offer him a safer environment away from state authorities who had long been hostile to his gang affiliations. The plea deal did not involve cooperation with prosecutors, making Daniel one of the many members who chose to face his charges without betraying his fellow gang members. Currently, Daniel remains in federal custody, having been transferred to a facility in California's federal prison system as part of his life sentence. Number 4. James Todd Sapp. James Todd Sapp, born on July 6, 1966, was a man whose life became deeply entangled with criminal activities and associations that marked him as a figure of danger and notoriety. Sapp's history was characterized by multiple legal conflicts and a self-proclaimed affiliation with the Aryan Brotherhood. Despite his claims, authorities noted that while he displayed tattoos associated with supremacist ideologies, he lacked the distinct markings often tied to confirmed members of the group. Nonetheless, his criminal endeavors and alleged affiliations painted a stark picture of a man operating on society's fringes. Sapp's criminal record was extensive, involving numerous convictions across various states, including Washington, Kentucky, Arizona, and Oregon. These convictions encompass serious offenses such as weapon-related misconduct, defiance of law enforcement, and possession of controlled substances. In 2012, Sapp was implicated in an incident involving a physical altercation with a minor, during which he also assaulted an adult relative who confronted him. This episode uncovered an illegal stockpile of weapons at his residence, highlighting the dangerous environment surrounding his lifestyle. One of the most critical events defining Sapp's legacy occurred on June 30, 2014, in Vancouver, Washington. During a routine traffic stop, he fired multiple shots at Officer Dustin Goudshaw, gravely injuring the officer. Sapp fled the scene, leaving a trail of chaos that included an attempt to forcefully take a vehicle from an elderly man. His efforts to evade capture were thwarted, and he was apprehended after a brief but intense manhunt. At the time of this incident, Sapp faced charges of attempted murder, robbery, and illegal possession of a firearm. His criminal past and alleged gang ties amplified the gravity of his actions. During his detention, he was placed under heightened observation due to concerns for his well-being. However, on July 17, 2014, he attempted self-harm while in custody, succumbing to his injuries the following day. Number 3. Curtis Price. Curtis Price, a known affiliate of the Aryan Brotherhood, lived a life that was deeply rooted in criminal activities associated with this notorious organization. His involvement painted a chilling portrait of a man whose actions left a trail of devastation. As a reputed enforcer for the Aryan Brotherhood, Price carried out violent assignments that underscored his position within the gang and marked him as a dangerous figure in its network. Price's criminal history became publicly significant in 1983, following the termination of Richard Barnes and Elizabeth Ann Hickey. Authorities concluded that Barnes, whose son Stephen Barnes had left the Aryan Brotherhood and cooperated with law enforcement, was targeted as a form of retribution. Richard Barnes was discovered in Los Angeles County with gunshot wounds, a calculated act meant to send a message of loyalty and control. Days later, Elizabeth Ann Hickey, who had knowledge of Price's role in the Barnes case, was found fatally assaulted at her residence in Humboldt County, further cementing the sense of fear and authority the gang sought to instill. Price's activities extended beyond these violent acts. On the same day Hickey's body was discovered, he was involved in an armed robbery at a movie theater in Humboldt County. This pattern of behavior reflected his alignment with a life of crime that further solidified his role within the Aryan Brotherhood. Price's actions led to his eventual arrest and conviction. In 1986, a Humboldt County court sentenced him to death for the assassinations and associated crimes. Despite his incarceration, Price remained a symbol of the violent reach of the Aryan Brotherhood, as his life exemplified the gang's ethos of power maintained through fear and reprisal. At the time of his demise, Price had been on death row at San Quentin State Prison for over 3 decades. He passed away on August 17, 2021, at the age of 74, reportedly of natural causes. Number 2. Ronald Ambrose Paul. Ronald Ambrose Paul, Jr. is a known member of the Aryan Brotherhood. Born in 1994, Paul rose through the ranks within the gang and was eventually identified as a first lieutenant, a significant leadership position. The Aryan Brotherhood is notorious for its involvement in a range of criminal activities, including racketeering, illegal trafficking, and using violence to maintain power both inside prisons and on the streets. Paul's criminal history started long before his latest charges. In 2015, he was convicted of aggravated assault after an incident where he fired a BB gun at businesses, parked cars, and moving vehicles along Main Street in Cedartown, Georgia. As a result, he received a 4-year prison sentence, followed by 16 years of probation. However, his release from Autry State Prison in January 2019 was short-lived. Within months, Paul found himself entangled in serious criminal activity once again, this time tied to the Aryan Brotherhood's operations. In 2023, Paul was arrested as part of a larger investigation conducted by the Polk County Sheriff's Office into Aryan Brotherhood activities. The investigation uncovered a troubling scheme where Paul and his associates were using an 11-year-old juvenile to smuggle contraband into the Polk County Sheriff's Office. Deputies had been monitoring phone communications and other intelligence when they connected Paul to this illegal activity, leading to his arrest along with several others. Authorities charged Paul with multiple felonies, including conspiracy to commit a felony, use of a communication facility to facilitate a crime, and engaging in criminal activities as part of a gang. These charges carried severe consequences, potentially leading to 85 years in prison. At the time of his arrest, Paul was still serving his probation from the earlier assault conviction. With the new charges and his probation violation, he faced an additional 16 years behind bars. His position as a lieutenant within the Aryan Brotherhood suggests that he was heavily involved in orchestrating criminal operations, including the use of minors to carry out illegal acts on his behalf. As of the latest reports, Paul is still incarcerated, facing multiple charges, and his future remains uncertain as he awaits trial. Number 1. Michael Thompson. Michael Lynn. Thompson, known as Iron Mike, is a former high-ranking member of the Aryan Brotherhood. Born in 1955, Thompson's life would be marked by violence, incarceration, and eventual transformation. He was convicted in 1973 for the assassinations of two individuals in Orange County, California, a crime he has always maintained he did not commit. Despite this, he was sentenced to life in prison and spent 45 years behind bars. During his time in prison, Thompson became deeply involved in the Aryan Brotherhood, a group notorious for its violent criminal activities, including extortion, illegal substance trafficking, and orchestrating violent incidents against inmates and staff alike. The Aryan Brotherhood, known for its ruthlessness and ideological commitment to white supremacy, was a dangerous environment. Thompson's association with the gang led him to rise through its ranks, eventually becoming one of its most prominent members. In prison, the Aryan Brotherhood's code of conduct and its brutal methods shaped Thompson, pushing him into numerous violent altercations, which left him scarred physically and mentally. However, Thompson's journey within the gang was not without its turning points. In 1983, amid rising tensions within the Aryan Brotherhood's leadership, Thompson began to question the group's actions and its direction. Eventually, he distanced himself from the gang, becoming one of the most high-profile members to leave. His decision to cooperate with authorities further sealed his break from the group. He provided key information that contributed to investigations, and his cooperation with law enforcement helped expose some of the gang's criminal operations. His actions earned him parole in 2019 after serving a lengthy sentence. In prison, Thompson had managed to teach himself to read and write, and he later earned college degrees, including a PhD in biology and business administration, which he used to reinvent himself upon release. Despite this reinvention, Thompson's past caught up with him. In 2020, he was arrested in Lake County, California, alongside Eric Hutchins, for allegedly defrauding individuals out of unemployment benefits. They were accused of targeting vulnerable, often homeless victims, convincing them to provide personal information so that Thompson and Hutchins could claim unemployment benefits on their behalf. The fraud amounted to nearly $400,000. Thompson also allegedly falsified his own benefits, despite being incarcerated at the time. This scheme was part of a broader pattern of financial fraud, including loan fraud, which authorities linked to Thompson and Hutchins. Today, Thompson remains under legal scrutiny, distancing himself from his previous gang affiliations while attempting to rebuild his life.